What's good, y'all? I'm about to give you guys my brief outline. You know what's funny is that I was just about to upload, and I had already uploaded my breakdown and prediction of this fight, but apparently it got postponed due to, the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, passing away yesterday or this past morning. So the fight got pushed back to around October, around there. So might as well do my brief outline, man. For those of y'all that are tuning in or that are watching the video, I had apparently did a prediction yesterday, and I had uploaded it, but man, it just got postponed. So I'm like, you know what? Might as well put that video on private and do a brief outline on this fight. So this is the first fight that I'll be talking about, which involves a woman fight, a female fight. And it's between the undisputed, two-time undisputed, one of the pound-for-pound best woman fighters in the sport, Clarissa Shields, and probably combats. Well, I mean, obviously, she still got to do her thing in MMA, but in boxing, no doubt, man, no doubt. It's Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. And this is a good fight, man. This fight definitely has my attention. A couple years back, everyone was wanting the Christina Hammer fight. The fight happened, and Shields won. So that was also a good fight for the sport of women's boxing. But I had explained in my video that I've been watching women's fights for a while, but not all of them. I don't understand it to like a professional level, you know what I mean? Like someone that's been doing it for years, like as much as I have for the men's divisions, and even to a historical context. And I can't even say that about me studying the men's division of boxing, you know what I mean? Like with the historical context, but I know a lot about the men's division of boxing, and I understand a thing or two about women's boxing too, because I like all aspects of fighting, combat sports, whether it be MMA, Taekwondo, Muay Thai, wrestling, or kickboxing. As long as there's a fight going on, I'm always going to watch it because I love the competitive nature, man, of a fight where everyone's inflicting damage on each other, and I'm seeing the best of human physics just happen right before my eyes instead of somebody just kicking a ball around. So yeah, like I said before, man, everybody who watches the amateurs, and amateurs are basically a bunch of little kids fighting each other, well, teenagers basically. Like some of them will be like 13, 14-year-olds facing off against like 17 and some, I think 18-year-olds sometimes. So yeah, like that goes for my little monologue about like why I watch all aspects of combat sports, and I respect it, man. I respect it. And there's a thing or two that you could actually learn from a woman's fight, you know what I mean? And some of the men don't even apply some of these methods, like Clarissa Shields does better than a lot of the men's elite level skill, you know what I mean? Not saying that she could win them in a fight or anything like that, but I'm just saying like her IQ and the way that she conducts herself. Very smart fighter, man. Very smart fighter, including other fighters too, man. Like Cecilia Brækhus, Katie Taylor, like a bunch of these other fighters, man. Amanda Serrano, like a lot of fights I'm still trying to catch up with, but sometimes they just go under the radar, man, because they're not promoted well enough. And they're a lot better than we expect, you know what I mean? Like some good fights just fly underneath us. And that needs to change a little bit, man. I'm not gonna lie. That needs to change a lot, actually. So, what was I gonna say? Yeah, man. Like I was saying before, man. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you could learn. Heck, matter of fact, Ann Wolfe, which is one of my favorite women fighters, was training James Kirkland, and James Kirkland was on a tear with her, man. Like, you could ask every single boxing fan, boxing aficionado, however you want to label a hardcore boxing fan, and ask them about like how Ann Wolfe took James Kirkland afar, man. So Yeah, man. Anyways, let's get down to breaking down the fight. Well, brief outline, of course, because I had already given my prediction. But this is a good fight, man. You know, both of them have history with each other, dating back to the amateurs. And Shields, well, Savannah Marshall still thinks that she holds that over Shields. And they had a little bit more encounters than just the amateur fight. They had some sparring together later on. And some say that, well, even Shields says it herself that she got the better of Savannah Marshall afterwards. So it's kind of hard to take either experience into that, man, you know, besides the pro experience, because that's all that matters, man, believe it or not. What you did in the amateurs doesn't really matter until you prove it in the professional rankings, of course. So that's always going to be a thing. But Savannah Marshall, I mean, rightfully so, she's still going to hold that against Shields, you know, that she holds that win over here. And I haven't even seen the fight, believe it or not. And I'm still trying to look for it. That way I could like actually study the fight a little bit, you know, like from the mentality of both fighters and see like how they would react if they were to fight each other, you know, besides the mental aspect. That's the only reason why I would probably watch that fight, you know, back in the amateurs. So anyways, this is a good fight, man, you know, and they had a face-to-face with Johnny Nelson, I think that was his name. And they were talking about each other, and Shields, man, Shields is on it, you know, like Shields is like very, very disrespectful, you know, like she doesn't give a shit. She's very confident, you know, and she's really making it apparent that she doesn't give a flying fuck about what Savannah Marshall did in the amateurs or what she did afterwards, you know, because Clarissa Shields, two-time gold medalist, same Olympics as Shakur Stevenson, you know, and other different fighters that were there, you know, Joe Joyce back in the 2016 Rio Olympics, you know, over there in Brazil. And she's not really intimidated, man, believe it or not. But Savannah Marshall isn't really like a big trash talker like that, you know. I mean, she has that UK slang where like she tries to say something smart, but then like she just gets overwhelmed by Shields' talking, you know what I mean? And Shields basically talks like how she fights, you know what I mean? Like the volume of punches and stuff, because Clarissa Shields is a volume puncher, and I just imagine her just overwhelming Savannah Marshall with that. And that could be a key in the fight, by the way. Clarissa Shields is volume punching, but Savannah Marshall sometimes has a stiff jab, you know, like if she really applies to it. And Peter Fury, which is one of her coaches, also the coach of Huey Fury and former coach of Tyson Fury, and obviously Tyson Fury's uncle. I mean, she could give Shields a little bit of problems with the jab, you know, especially like if she's trying to come in on Savannah Marshall. As long as Marshall is able to step in with the jab, you know, change levels on it, then she could give Shields a lot of problems, you know, and she's defensively okay, you know, not as good as Shields. But if you were to ask me who the better athlete was, I think Shields is definitely the better athlete by far. But the bigger puncher, definitely Savannah Marshall, man. Savannah Marshall hits hard, especially for a woman, man. You know, like sometimes when I hear her fight, I hear those shots in the ring when she's fighting the other female fighters, and you hardly ever hear that in any of their fights, you know what I mean? So she has a lot of power, man. So Shields needs to be careful in this one, especially with the right hand or anything that Savannah Marshall is setting up. And I know I explained this in my prediction video, that she's gonna have to be very careful, you know, counter, because Savannah Marshall tends to fight tall. And Savannah Marshall has like a very loose style, very awkward, but at the same time, it's almost like the whole typical, you know, that generic Peter Fury style that Tyson Fury and Huey Fury try to implement, you know. Not saying that they're the same as Tyson Fury and Huey Fury, but somewhat of a similar philosophy where they loosen themselves up, and then like as soon as they throw a punch and they put a lot of snap into it, man, like they generate a lot of power. So that's what Savannah Marshall tends to generate with that. And yeah, man, I mean, like, I don't want to give out my prediction yet, even though somebody might have seen it as long as like the video was up earlier in the day. But like I said before, man, this is definitely one of the most anticipated women's fight right now at the moment. I don't know about all time, but um, it's something that I definitely wanted to talk about because I love boxing overall, and I try to study it before I speak on it. You know what I mean? Like I study some of these fighters before I speak on them, and I know a thing or two about Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. I still need to learn a lot more about Savannah Marshall, believe it or not, but I do know some stuff to where, like, who she trains with, her philosophy on boxing, and her history a little bit with Shields. And her amateur background is not as deep as Shields, but mentally, she could end up psyching Clarissa Shields out if Shields is not very careful. You know what I mean? So definitely a good fight to watch out for. And later on, I'm going to be uploading more videos, man. You know, like more predictions on fights and a lot more on women's boxing. A lot more, man. I definitely need to capitalize on that. So anyways, appreciate y'all stopping by. And let me know what y'all think. And as soon as fight week comes around, for those of you that don't know, that I do breakdowns and predictions like as soon as the fight happens the same week. Like around October 16th, that's when the fight will happen, and I will deliver my prediction, my official prediction of it. And you never know, man. My thoughts could change about it, man, because Savannah Marshall could present a very big threat to Clarissa Shields, believe it or not, because she has the power to change everything, man. You know, so my thoughts could change on it. Everybody else's could, you know, depending on like how much boxing they know. So, anyways, let me know what y'all think, and I'm out. Peace.